We knew that episode 8 of season 1 of Helluva Boss was intended to take place in the Gluttony Ring thanks to the full color previews we got of it in the 2022 trailer. However, we all know now that this episode was delayed and didn't get released until last week after 4 episodes of season 2 had already aired. With that in mind, I think it's time to make a real video breaking down the Gluttony Ring and everything we know about it so far. There are of course 7 rings in hell, each ruled over by one of the 7 deadly princes, with this setup inspired by the real-life Peter Binsfeld classification of demons. Lucifer, Beelzebub, Satan, and the other princes already had a long history by the time that this list was written in the 1400s, but this list claimed to properly place them in a hierarchy of demons as given to them by the witches that Peter Binsfeld was torturing. The 7 rings are stacked on top of each other, and it appears that each ring is so high above the other that they have their own haze or atmosphere that develops beneath each ring that gives the lower ring a uniquely colored sky. The show of course takes place in the Pride Ring with its red sky, where Lucifer rules not just as the Prince of the Pride Ring, but the King of all of Hell. Just below that is the Ring of Wrath, which we saw in episode 5 of season 1, and again in the most recent episode where Stryker kidnaps Stolas in season 2. This sky is predominantly orange, and as we ascend lower through Hell, we follow a general color spectrum similar to a rainbow. Just below the Wrath Ring then is Gluttony, where we of course saw Luna go to the Hellhound party in episode 8 with its yellow sky. Though part of that sky seems to be influenced by the strange beehive architecture that doesn't just make up the fancy buildings of the Gluttony Ring, but appears to wrap around the entirety of it, covering the sky as far as we can see. I'm very curious if all of Gluttony is basically trapped in a beehive-like dome, or if there are parts that exist outside of the hive, perhaps parts that aren't nearly as nice, where the majority of Hellhounds spend their time when not invited to a luxurious party. BLZ holds the title of Prince in the Gluttony Ring, but is referred to as the Queen Bee, and even the credits call her Queen BLZ instead of Prince or even Princess. Beelzebub as a name has its roots in Baal and Baal, which is also the name of a demon in the Ars Goetia, a king alongside Paimon and Asmodeus. Asmodeus is the Prince of Lust, but also a king in the Ars Goetia, so like Asmodeus, Beelzebub may be in both royalties, hence why she is called a queen here. This may also just be a little special title that Satan and Beelze have that the other princes of Hell do not. Lucifer is the king of Hell, but Satan and Beelzebub are famously known as kings of Hell in other mythologies, each really representing the same basic devil figure across its mythological development. In some cases, they are listed as the 3 kings of Hell, or as a sort of unholy trinity. With the top 3 rings being Lucifer, then Satan, and then Beelze, I think it's possible that Beelze was purposely intended to be of higher rank than the other princes, even if she may not be a king in the Ars Goetia nobility. After all, she doesn't even have a bird theme in the way that most of the Ars Goetia do, with Asmodeus at least having bird legs and a rooster tail in his design. In yesterday's video, I mistakenly said that Beelzebub was confirmed to also be the well-known demon Baal or Baal, because of a mistake I made when looking at Beelzebub's demonic seal in the show. Some demons have special seals, such as the real-life Ars Goetia, where the seals of Stolas and Asmodeus seen in the show come from. Beelzebub is not listed as a name in the Ars Goetia, but instead the name of Baal or Baal is there. Beelzebub is derived from Baal or Baal, with Baal meaning Lord and Beelzebub meaning Lord of the Flies, it being an insult towards those who worship Baal as a god in ancient times. Because of that, one of the seals for Beelzebub specifically looks like the seal for Baal, just with different proportions. Because of this, I mistakenly thought that this confirmed that Baal and Beelzebub were the same character in the show, but Baal could appear in the show with his own seal that just looks similar to Beelzebub's. That being said, I think the choice to use this one for Beelzebub when it's so similar to the one for Baal in the Ars Goetia shows that she really is an Ars Goetia still, but again, she isn't bird themed, so it's definitely not confirmed. As I talked about in my other video, however, there may be different lines of different types of animals in the Ars Goetia, including an entire line of foxes or other furry-based animals, but we'll just have to wait and see. Hellhounds appear to be the native species to this ring, with each ring known for a particular demon breed being from there. Wrath has the imps, though they have migrated all over Hell more than any other species it seems, and just below Gluttony with its Hellhounds are of course the Greed Ring with its Loan Sharks, and the Lust Ring with its Succubus, the Envy Ring seems to have Deep Sea Demons, and Sloth is home to the Candle-Headed Demons that resemble Baphomet. The Hellhounds appear to have subspecies modeled after different breeds of dog, and we've seen everything from Chihuahuas to Dalmatians, and it raises the question of if there are other non-Hellhound species in the Gluttony Ring. Most rings have a species that is rather uniform, though we've seen with imps as well that different subspecies can develop after evolving in isolation after migration to different rings, and perhaps intermixing with the native species as well. Instead of being home to just one species, the Envy ring appears to be home to a wide variety of deep sea demons that we've seen in the background of the show, so more than one species can be from each ring, but usually they tend to match the same theme. Helluva Boss has its roots in Zoophobia, a comic by Vivziepop that focused largely on a furry-based cast of characters, with Hell being a secondary location reserved for a future arc involving the Hazbin Hotel characters. The Gluttony ring could essentially be its own microverse, containing all sorts of furry creatures, and Beelzebub herself seems to make that a possibility. Beelzebub surprised me by having this furry aspect to her character, as I of course imagined her to be purely a bee or a fly disguised as a bee, but instead she seems to be part fox. This may be something simply done because of the inclusion of Kesha and the desire to mirror the Zoophobia music video set to Die Young, but it may indicate that the Gluttony ring has other classes of furry species that aren't considered as low as the Hellhounds themselves are. The Goetia and other elites, such as some of the supposed native overlords like Rosie, seem to be native demons of hell who are more powerful than the other demons, but also smaller in population as a whole. Hellhounds' large population comes from what looks like overbreeding, with Hellhounds probably having multiple litters with several pups throughout their lives. This is something that seemed helped by the party lifestyle that Beelzebub has in her ring, where these lowest of the low Hellhounds are still able to have extravagant and gluttonous parties, though BLZ indicates that part of the reason she facilitates all this is so that the Hellhounds will keep making her honey, as she says in her song. BLZ might be an example of a higher class of furry species that rules over Gluttony, a smaller tribe of foxes, with one of them, BLZ, serving as the prince of the Gluttony ring as a whole. Other furry species could exist in smaller communities with more elitist culture than the average hellhound, who, like imps, would be seen as just lowly workers that can be transported across hell for the needs of other demons. Or BLZ might really just be the only exception, and the rest of Gluttony may just really be hellhounds and their doggy subspecies. BLZ seems to live for the honey that is produced in her ring. She sings about giving the hellhounds what they want so they keep making it, and talks about how she can sort of taste the mood of other people around her. Instead of it being produced manually, it seems the mood of her party somehow helps create this honey, explaining why she has such a big focus on providing lavish entertainment for one of the lowest classes of hell. The honey is used to make BLZ Juice, and Moxie mentions in his song from episode 7 that he loves Millie more than BLZ loves her bub, indicating that for BLZ, that honey-based mead that we see Veroska drinking in episode 3 is the ultimate gluttonous experience. This mead seems powerfully intoxicating and addictive to demons, with Veroska even being in rehab for it for a short while. On mortals, it has strange effects, as we saw in episode 3 that it straight up turns an earthly fish into a giant Leviathan-type monster. This BLZ Juice, as well as other gluttonous products, are available outside of the Gluttony ring through the way of the app B Eats that appears on Blitz's phone, where we see one app for each prince. I had previously theorized that Beelzebub herself has an army of bee-based demons who fly around the 7 rings delivering this food, though this episode definitely didn't indicate that that was the case. And in fact, BLZ herself doesn't appear to even be a real bee. As said in my previous video, BLZ has 2 wings like a fly has, instead of 4 wings like a bee does, and Beelzebub of course means Lord of the Flies. This bee theme seems to be a way of disguising her fly attributes perhaps, trying to be more fashionable and less gross seeming. This is a pattern that other princes have shown in various ways, such as Asmodeus being ashamed of his true feelings of love he clearly has for Fizzaroli, while expressing in his music that the only thing that matters is lustful and kinky experiences. Mammon, meanwhile, has a rock star persona, but appears to be hiding a lot behind his strange jester and clown-themed clothing. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time.